Hello and welcome to episode 9, part 1 of MMM Sisters Stories podcast. In this episode, Dr. Nadia Ramoutar speaks to Sister Mary O'Malley about what inspired her to join the Medical Missionaries of Mary. They talk about her work in Kenya, raising awareness around human trafficking and the incredible difference she's made in many people's lives. We hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for listening.
I'm Mary O'Malley. I come from the west of Ireland, just outside Castlebar. I was born, grew up there. I'm the eldest of 4 girls and 2 boys. And they're all alive, thank God. And I look forward to seeing them now. But I'm just home until mid-January.
Wonderful. That's great. How did you first ever hear of the MMMs?
Well, I knew even as a child that I wanted to be a missionary. Maybe it was because I used to deliver magazines from the school to some of my neighbours. And I said, that's what I want to do. And I never really deviated from that idea. I fell in love once or twice, but it was going no place, and I was still a youth. I was working in civil service for a few months after my leaving cert, 1967, and I knew it wasn't for me, and it wasn't permanent. It was never permanent. It was only just a stop being over, if you like, just to convince my parents really that I wanted to be a missionary. I wanted to go and I wanted to join the Medical Missionaries of Mary. And I recall during the retreat we had annually in our school, and this was the final retreat, I found a book, coffee table book of MMMs from the Silver Jubilee of the congregation. And I didn't hear what the priest said. I just read it from cover to cover. And next day, 2 MMMs came out from the back of the convent of my school. And it was for me like, this was a real confirmation. These are the ones I know about now. I've read all about them, and now I see 2 of them. And there was no doubt in my mind what I wanted to do and to be and to serve.
That's wonderful. So basically, you went in very early then. You became an MMM early, and then where did you go? Where have you been?
Well, my journey has taken me through, as Eilish said, we have a religious formation as MMMs. And then after that, I did my studies here in Drogheda of nurse training and midwifery. And my first assignment was actually to Nigeria. And while I didn't think that that's what was coming up, it did. And I'm glad ever since. Nigeria gave me endless scope. And while I was there, I learned about natural family planning from Dr. Leonie McSweeney, one of our sisters. She's gone to God now more recently. And I could see from the model she used of going around teaching couples in parishes that was the best approach. And it worked out that way. I actually became very ill in Nigeria, and afterwards was advised maybe that I go to East Africa. So after coming home 6 months later, I found myself with an invitation to go to Kenya. So I didn't hesitate. I knew it was the right way for me. And first I worked in the remote Kerio Valley, which now is a place of a lot of banditry, and the people are suffering there. So then while a year there, I was next given the opportunity to study Kiswahili, which I did in Tanzania until I became reasonably fluent. And even while I was there, I began to write out some of my sessions in Kiswahili for teaching NFP, as I knew then I was being assigned to a very large diocese of Eldoret. And after some years there, then my next assignment was to do NFP at a national level. And in total, I was doing it for 10 years. So it really steeped me in the art of teaching and training. And I found very often that the teacher in me, despite being a medic, the teacher in me was coming out. And my philosophy was, if I can do this, you can do 10 times better. And that's what has taken me up to this very day. So Nigeria, a short period, but learned a lot. Then 1980, Kenya. From the time I was doing it at a national level, I was pulled away into another assignment, which was leadership in the congregation. And that really opened up another different scope for me. Then I had a break, and during that break, it was a good place for me to see where I wanted to go next. And after the break, I returned to Kenya in 2006. And it appeared to me that from what I had read and heard during my time in Ireland at the break, that this was fairly rampant around the world. And it was also very rampant in Kenya. I could see there was a need, but nobody else seemed to think there was a need. And so therefore I had to begin from ground zero. And with that came a whole other way of trying to find by devious ways and means how to spread this message. And I first started with the community health workers in Makura, which is a large slum which MMM work in right up to today. And the problems there seem to get longer and broader and deeper, but it is the place to be, and a lot of good work takes place there. From my side of it, I trained the community health workers, and then I invited them to bring me to other places where they would attend churches on Sunday. So I would have a small speech, 10 minutes to the audience, and then a longer session in the afternoon where possible, and then workshops during the weekdays. But weekdays was hard to get people because they were working. But anyway, I knew that workshops was the way to go. And at this stage, I was already thinking of producing my own teaching aids. I produced a manual in English and Kiswahili, and then I also produced a flyer and many other things, T-shirts, whatever, over the years. I believe that when people see, they're much more open to what is happening. A big breakthrough came from me in December 2006. And while I had been talking about it and telling people about it, they really couldn't get a grip on it. And in 2006, it was released, a very major study undertaken by UNICEF and the government of Kenya. And that filled several pages when it was released. And now at last, here is something I could say that to people genuinely. It's not me to tell you you have a problem, but your papers are saying there is a problem. And bought several versions of the paper and photocopied, and people were asking and they wanted to have them and they wanted to talk about it because for them it was really important. And we did make great headway. At the end of 2 years, I knew that this was the ministry I was meant to carry out in Kenya.
Mary, when you say you saw something and other people didn't see it yet, can you be more? Can you name what it was that you were seeing, so that the audience will understand what it was you were seeing in terms of human trafficking? How did you know something was going on?
Well, I had a good mentorship here on human trafficking during the break that I had at that time. And I had got this information mainly by Sister Maura O'Donoghue and Sister Isabel. they were also grappling with it. And once or twice I saw a tiny little section on the side of the paper, maybe 10 lines, and that alerted me, if it's getting in there now, there is a problem, and there must be a very deep problem. And that was exactly what I found, that when I would hold these initial workshops on the Sundays where I went into the Protestant and Pentecostal churches, what I would say, there were so many people, and everybody had a story, and everybody wanted to share what was happening. And really they were confirming what I knew already myself. But my role then was really just to lead them along the journey. And after that then, within 2 years, I had the first major workshops. And in 2010, I went into training of trainers. That's where really the teacher came out in me. And training of trainers is teaching people, first of all, to understand what it is, what's happening. And after that, then give them the scope to teach themselves. And they can really do it very well. And they have stories, and they've heard, especially some of them even have first-hand experience of raising a child in these difficult circumstances. And then he or she sees an opportunity, but it turns out it's not an opportunity. It's a journey into hell as they live it. And when they come back, the stories they have for me would really make your hair stand on edge. For instance, they are very much people who are lured by traffickers and recruiters, telling them that you will earn as much money in a month as you would for a whole year in Kenya. And they cannot sit down and lie under that and say, there's a chance I have to improve my life, my siblings, my family. We have no land, we have no house. We're here trying to pay rent in the slums. And it's really very, very difficult. And you find that very often people are cheated so badly that there is no big salary, and they find themselves in situations where they really never in their worst imagination could see what it was. And the same even goes for boys who go there into heavy construction work, long driving. And even I recall one young man who thought he had trained as a swimming instructor, and he found himself as in a gay bar in Dubai, and that was really the end of him. He acquired HIV out of it, and he came home, and he just held his head in his hands, and he said, "This is what happens. I was cheated." At that stage, he didn't know he had HIV, but I wrote about his story at a later time, included him in The Way of the Cross, which I designed, and told snippets of stories for people to realize that the sufferings of Christ were being played out very largely in the lives of these people.
What do you enjoy most about your work as an MMM?
The greatest joy I get is out of the challenges I meet and how I devise ways of meeting those challenges and helping people to change their lives. And I ask myself, how can I make a difference in the life of this person? And early on, when I saw the dilemma of trafficked victims returning, some might have escaped, and they have some horrible stories to tell of they're not paid in time, and they're only given a fraction of what they were promised. And when they asked for their first wage, one woman was just slapped across the face. And then the lady said to her, the lady just went then and washed her hands. And this girl said to me, I think she feared contamination from my skin. So those women crying back with broken lives, one thing, rescue of victims is very, very expensive in most cases. If you really want to take them through it extensively and cover all the aspects of what's happening in their lives, they've no money, no shelter. They need food, they need livelihoods. And one of the big things I do anyway is providing income generating activities. That is giving a certain amount in what they think they can do. It might be selling vegetables, selling second-hand clothes, and things like that. But the biggest dilemma they come up against is that they went to earn money, though they would have it for school fees for children. And this never happened. And then they find themselves with a boy or girl staying home, sinking into the same impoverished conditions. So one of the big challenges, and one that I do my best to meet, is to sponsor that child. I remember one woman she was a Muslim woman, and I had done a project of victim assistance in a Muslim area. And I asked her what would help her. And she said, if I had another flask, I could make more tea for the men in the evening. And that to me, I felt it in my throat, the poverty of it. She was asking for a flask. And then big, big tears flowed like you turn on a tap out of her eyes. And she said, it's my daughter, Mariam. And Mariam she had managed to give her one term in Form 1, first year in secondary school. And she wasn't even able to buy the textbooks or even the copybooks she needed. And now, after paying that, she found herself at a dead end. What could she do? It was like she could only crack her head against the wall. But for that lady to undertake the education of her daughter was one of the most fantastic things that I could do, and that she really got to finish secondary school, came tops in her school with a B+, and then took her on to university where she did counselling psychology. And today that girl is working and helping 3 other siblings younger than her. So this is an achievement. It gives me joy. And when you see what you can do, and when you see the potential people have, it is to release this, because I believe that education, as Mandela said, it is the greatest weapon we have to eradicate poverty. Poverty is a curse in people's lives. Education is one of the best instruments we have against it. And that Mariam now, she did some of her placement with agencies that offer something similar. She actually came to our office then, knowing her for so many years. She was excellent when it came to interview of clients. And she also worked in outpatients of a teaching hospital, where she was really like an advisor, or people looked on her to talk. They had an opportunity to share their story with her. So she had a great feel for people. And she did tell me during the time she was in our office of what life was like for those children, because she told me the hunger they endured. The mother was away. She thought she would be able to send money home to them. She wasn't. She was trapped in a brothel in Mombasa, and there was nothing coming out of it. And then she managed to escape, and then she escaped, and she got to Nairobi. Then she got to see her children. And when she came home, her mother gave her a note which had come from the teachers saying, "Your children are sleeping in class. Please come and explain yourself." And that was like putting a bullet to her head, because she knew it was malnutrition that was causing the children to sleep in class. So by giving her a small livelihood and taking the first daughter at least to school, then she herself was able to stand up on her feet again and do the best she could. Mariam remembers those times, and she knows what can be done. And I'm happy to say she has a very good job at the moment, and her siblings will not want for education so long as she is there. It's a tremendous experience to know that one can make a difference in the lives of people.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for part 2.